how do I put this? When you go back and play older Call of Duties to see if the good memories are nostalgia or not. You know what I mean? Like you go and you play them and you're like, okay, this is actually good. I enjoy this. But for Modern Warfare 2019, having taken like 2 years away from it, I was creating like a fond perspective of it that I wanted to like, find out if that's really how it was, how I remember it. And I went back to play it and it was well, I had some issues. So that's what we're basically going to be talking about. Everybody in the chat has gone back and played it this past week, and we're going to go over things that we still have an issue with, things we forgot about of how bad an issue they were, and things that were good that, maybe we forgot that they added to the game. So the first topic is going to be the lack of minimap. For me, that is still an issue with maneuvering through the maps because the maps are supposed to be shaped like classic Call of Duty maps, but you can't maneuver them like classic Call of Duty maps without a classic minimap. So whoever wants to hop on that based on, their feelings for the minimap, unless it's like pretty much all generically the same.
Yep. Go ahead,
Go
Gunnar.
ahead, burrito. Not having a mini map changes play styles
Yeah.
because when we went out to LA,
Mm-hmm.
we played and it felt regular. Now, not having a mini map can change the flow of the match.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty has changed so much to the point where it's super competitive, you know?
Yeah.
And we used to play and when the map was, regular with the UAV and whatever, and it showed up the dots if you had a suppressor or a non-suppressor. It just disrupted the flow of rushers, meaning that
Mm.
we can't predict spawns. So when you're playing, right, and you have a normal UAV where somebody doesn't have a suppressor, you shoot. You know where the team is majority is going to be.
Right.
But when you don't have that, it disrupts flow and it creates camping. That was the one problem about Modern Warfare 19 that I did not like was not having a UAV. But at the same time, it was kind of like counterintuitive. They tried to add. Did they add a perk for that at all?
No, I think
No.
they didn't they add some type of UAV related perk in
It was something to make it seem like, oh, it's still there, but
Oh
it's
no!
not.
So what happened was I remember talking to Joel when the game first came out, and I was like, "You got to add something in there because there was absolutely nothing."
Yeah,
And then
there was no counter to it.
they added the map. They added the mini
Yeah.
map that had no characters or nothing on it. And then
Yeah.
I was like, "Dude, what is that?" And then he was like, "That's what they're doing." And then
It's worse.
after that, they added the map, but it just showed your teammates. It didn't show anything else. And I was like, "What?" He was like, "This is all they're gonna do. This is as far as they're gonna push
Yeah.
it." I'm
and
sorry.
that was a game time decision for them.
Yeah.
As soon as they made the game and thought about the multiplayer, when they sat in that room, they was like, you know what? We know people is going to come back that's been playing this game for almost 10 to 12 years and stop playing it. They knew that and was
Yeah.
like, you know what? To
They're
add a gameplay change and get them in, we're going to take away the UAV because that's information is key in war, right?
Yeah.
So that is the
New
key.
players would not be able to compete because they wouldn't be as well adjusted to
Exactly.
using the minimap. Yeah.
Exactly. And just like I said, it just kills flow. That
Yeah.
killed the flow, especially with the maps in Modern Warfare. It was just most of the time, I would say about 60, 70% of the time, matches will not finish. That's just how it
Oh
was.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was a
because
problem.
of the flow of the game. People had, they tried to fix, no, they tried to push on a play style of where if you've been playing this game year in and year out for almost 12, 13, 14, 15 years, you're going to have to adapt to what we're pushing now. That is horrible.
Yeah.
That is not the way to make Call of Duty at all. That's just not it. I'm done talking, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Pre-atomic
got more. I
burrito.
can talk more, but
I know you can. All right. Burrito.
Bro.
Burrito.
So there's a lot that goes into it, and like I appreciate them trying to like make some like big change to the game to where like it really impacted the gameplay, but taking away the minimap wasn't right. And thinking onto it, like didn't want it to be like other Call of Duties where it was like super fast paced. They wanted you to take your time with literally everything, which is pretty counterintuitive to how pretty much every Call of Duty has played for the most part. But if you think about it, a lot of this inspiration kind of it kind of stemmed from like Rainbow Six Siege, because throughout the past years, and like while Call of Duty was going through its futuristic boost jump phase, and when it dipped back to World War II, the most popular shooter that was out, that was new and fresh, was Rainbow Six Siege. And so everybody loved the tactical aspect of it. Everybody loved like the search and destroy aspect of spawning and stuff like that, as well as the setup. So there was possibly some inspiration beyond behind that,
Yeah.
but
And
it just doesn't work for Call of Duty. Like it just
right.
doesn't. And if you
And
think about as well too, taking away the mini map, like if you think about how you play core versus hardcore, it's very different. Not just like the time to kill, but not having the mini map, not having a HUD, not having anything changes your gameplay a lot. It
Oh,
forces you to be a lot more careful with your routes.
yeah, that's one thing I want to say is like we had the option of hardcore if you wanted to play hardcore, which sometimes I do. But to force it like into core was, in my opinion, like if it was so it was just dumb because it was like you you have the option to do that if you want. It obviously wasn't something the fans every fan wanted, which is why you had the variety. And then, it was just the sales pitch of it, like, oh, this is where we think that the fans want to go. It's like that's not really what you think. Like I just wish they would have been more honest about the reason behind some of the changes that were obviously there to suppress the skill gap. Um, you know, like CCOT
I
tried to say in one of the interviews that, yeah, we're putting in features to kind of like, be soft on the skill gap or whatever to help in new players. He kind of said it there, but after that, they just avoided the topic of skill gap.
definitely. And I also think it was a culture shock for a lot of us,
Yeah.
especially years before with Black Ops 4 and World War II. You
Yeah.
know, especially with the rain. If they did try to take a Rainbow Six approach with the search and destroy tactical sight lines and stuff like that, because in Modern Warfare, when it first started, like the first couple of months, you could tell by play styles when you played that 6v6 team deathmatch, it was brutal because everybody was playing sight lines. And you could see that play style in Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, Rainbow Six Siege is about sight lines and knowing where, the enemy is at. But you can see that in Call of Duty, and that disrupted a lot, especially like a play style of a rusher or, trying to be the support of the team or just carry the team.
Yeah.
it
It was
if
also
it messed up a lot of. It didn't mix. I'm just gonna say that it didn't mix at all. So
it was
it
also
was a
very
culture shock.
Yeah, it was very clear too. A lot of in a lot of those early game lobbies as well too. You could tell how the pace of the game was going to go as
Yep.
well, because a few minutes in and no one has broke 30 yet. No
Yep.
team has broke 30. You know it's going to go to time.
Yep.
Like it's
Right.
just going to go to time. Nobody's going to rush. Everybody's sitting in their sight lines. Everyone's got their little
Yep.
spot. They're just I'm gonna chill right here. If you come over here, I'm gonna get you. If not, then
I'm just gonna
that's
sit
it.
here.
Yeah, just
And
gonna chill.
the time to kill don't make it any better at
No.
all.
No. At least
It
in
doesn't
Black
make
Ops
it any
Cold
better.
War, if somebody was camping and they got a few bullets on you, you had just enough time to maybe like maneuver and go heal somewhere and then try to like
Yep.
re-engage, which is what I liked about Black Ops 2. It took forever to kill, which sucked, but if someone was being campy and they tagged you, but you could maneuver out the way, you could outperform them. You could come
Yeah.
back and outperform them. You could have a second chance. All right, T-Dog, you haven't really been talking. What do you think about the
Yeah,
minimap?
so I have basically a mixed feelings about the mini map. So like I play a lot of gun game and gunfire
Mm,
game mode over like TDM or search and destroy. So for the gun game, I definitely like that there was no mini map because
Right.
it stopped people from really like spawn camping, and you didn't know where the next person was gonna spawn, so it really kind of kept you moving.
Mm-hmm.
And um, with the gunfire, they had smaller maps, so you really didn't need the mini map to
Right.
understand where the people will rotate to or the other players.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I did catch myself sometimes looking at that mini map, hoping to see that radar to, okay, he's actually right here, not on this side.
Yeah, like with TD, like with certain game modes, like you said, like gun game and the gunfire maps, like you don't need it, like for
Not as
sure. Yeah.
It's not a priority. Yeah,
And like
I
I actually
definitely
I have an issue with like the constant mini map on gun game where it shows like a constant red dot. Like that's an issue
see
for me.
most of the other Call of Duties I was always complaining about. I'm like, oh, why do they need radar on? In
Right.
this game, they didn't do it, and I enjoy it. I
Well,
still
Black Ops 1 was
jump on
great.
that to play it. Oh
Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. Black Ops 1 was great because it had like a traditional mini map. It wasn't a constant mini map. You only saw people if they're
shooting.
yeah, shooting.
Yeah,
Um, and then it was always nice to get like one of the suppressed weapons in the rotation, you know. But that's the other thing is that it took away um, the main purpose for suppressors in Call of Duty's gameplay function because the suppressors in this game, it's like, yeah, you're fully suppressed on radar. It's like, what the hell does that matter? You can't see me on radar.
yeah. Well,
Right.
exactly.
So it seemed like such an afterthought in comparison to what they were trying to do with all the attachments. But now it's gonna, after seeing the success of the retention in Black Ops Cold War, we'll see where that goes. But that's the next topic. That'll be later on. All right, the next thing I noticed that I had an issue with, this is probably gonna be a short one, was the pause before spawning.
Oh
That
yes.
was so annoying. Like you just want to get back in the game, and it's like we're gonna show you an overview of the map. The other thing that was annoying about it was like sometimes, you know, because the spawning was awful in itself, people would spawn behind you, and I found myself
yeah.
sometimes like looking down and seeing where somebody was, and seeing where their friend was, and then it gave me an awful spawn where I spawned behind them, and I was like, oh, I know where to maneuver to get these cheeky kills on these people, you know. And they weren't even camping, they were running around, but the game was like, hey, you want 2 free kills, and like you realize that's happening to you all the time in Modern Warfare. Like that
Yeah.
spawning was
I agree to that for sure.
I felt like spawns in Modern Warfare were made to, I don't know how to like put this, but I felt like, okay, let's just say spawn flips, right?
right.
I feel like when you play TDM or domination or whatever, I feel like they purposely put you behind the enemy to push a spawn. If that makes sense. Where you can get a kill.
Yeah, well,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, or to get people killed, because it's like
Yeah, right.
sometimes I would, like, whenever I got to like a really high kill streak, if I was on a shoot house, for instance, I have a few clips of this. If I wasn't on a high kill streak, I would usually die from someone far away or someone coming around the corner. But there were so many times where I was on a streak and then I would die and I'd watch the kill cam and the dude literally like spawned in my ass crack.
Right behind you.
Yeah.
Or on the side of you. Yep.
Right. And so it was like, that seems almost deliberate to stop, kill streaks.
Yep.
And stop, those types of advantages based on gameplay. And, other people have called this out too. There's tons of YouTubers who like have a collection of clips, they go full like conspiracy theory style, like connecting the dots and shit. Like, look at all this, but, yeah, it definitely had that feeling, but back to just like the pause, that was just annoying to me. Like, I want to get back in the game. I skip the kill cam so I can go right back to spawning. I don't want to wait 4 seconds to look at an overview of the map before getting back to mine. That part was definitely annoying.
That was kind of,
Yeah.
I didn't really mind it in a way. I mean,
With the power of hindsight, I do kind of dislike the whole cinematic like intro into the map as well too, because I honestly I find it a lot more useful, and this isn't just with Call of Duty in general. This also like stemmed into Splitgate, but like with Cold War and Vanguard, being able to switch weapons like before the match has even started, like makes a big difference.
Hmm.
And like it allows you to just get that like minute edge, because if you go ahead and you have a pistol as your sidearm, then you can go ahead and you can slide cancel to where you need to be and just get there just that much quicker, instead of waiting for the timer to go and then you have to switch and then you go.
Right.
And it makes the process a lot easier. But
Yeah.
like going back to how certain lobbies would also, like we said, if you were 3 minutes in and no team had hit 30 just yet, then you knew that it was going to go to time. One of the issues that also like caught on with that was, I remember a lot of the time, there were lobbies where we'd be down by like a handful of kills. I'm like, okay, we all need to push, and then my entire team is just all camped in like the back of spawn or one building that's just a little further up to spawn, and it's like, no, we kind of got to press the advantage. Like we can't just sit here twiddling our thumbs.
Right.
And then the issue with the spawning would also kind of extend that as well too, because with the spawning system, it's either you're spawning right behind the enemy or you're spawning in like the ass end of your spawn, and it's going to take you 5 years to get to where you need to be, and then you're going to spend, then you might die, you might live, but if you die, you're going to spend another 5 years getting to that one spot that you need to get to, or like trying to outmaneuver the enemy team.
Right. They tried to make a spawn system that would like adjust the score to keep it close. Like if the gameplay itself, if the matchmaking wasn't evening out the score enough, then the spawns seem to have been designed specifically to then have an impact on the outcome of one team or the other. And that's just not, like, it's just over convoluting a spawn system. Like, just let people play the game, you know. But T-Dog, you got anything to say on that?
No, not really.
All right. Well, the next
I
subject,
think all the points were hit there.
the next one that I noticed was the visibility on your screen when you were damaged. Now, when we went back and played this in, you know, LA, when me and Gunnar got to play this in 2019 in LA, it was really, really bad. But we were like, you know, whatever. It's just like super gory, super bloody, super dark, whatever. And then when everybody played it when it came out, we were all like, you know, this is a really bad problem, and they adjusted it. So like, I'm going back and playing Modern Warfare 2019 today, and I'm playing with the adjusted, you know, bloodied screen, and I'm still like, man, like this visibility is awful. Like if you get shot a couple times, they don't want you like to see like much at all. They're like, if you get hit a couple times, that should be it for you, you know, maneuvering or not. That's just what it felt like to me. It was too much, especially when you go and play Cold War and you're like, all right, this isn't that bad. You know I'm getting damaged. That's all I need to know. But yeah, that
visibility wasn't too great in Modern Warfare at all.
No,
especially down range. Like if you know somebody's shooting at you, you can't see nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my goodness, it's like they blend in with the map on purpose, if that makes sense. Like down range, you can't see a damn thing at all.
Yeah.
Visibility needs to be changed next year.
They added too much like dust and like visual ambiance to show.
Yeah, it
like,
was the foliage and
I get it.
You know, it was.
But it's just, you know, you go back to play. You go back and play the older CODs, and they have like minimal like dust and foliage just to like give the feel of the scene, but it's not enough to affect.
But that's why. But that's why people also like Treyarch as well, because of the vibrance. You know, the color palette is totally different.
They tried to go,
but I mean, Infinity War's done that too as well. You know,
they tried to go way too heavy with it. In Vanguard, if you remember, they had like too much like dust and foliage, and then the sunlight they wanted to make super realistic, and it was blinding everybody.
Right.
And so it's like you got to sacrifice that for the gameplay. You know what I mean? Like Again, T-Dogs.
If we can fix this,
I mean, I could get into Vanguard and how much I dislike the sun in that game, but Modern Warfare, I never really had much issue.
Yeah, the sun wasn't an issue in Modern Warfare. It's just we were just talking about the dust
With
mainly.
the other stuff. I turned a lot of my graphic settings down, not get all that extra fuzz that isn't necessary.
Right. On console, we couldn't do that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have the PC by that point. So
yeah.
At the time I didn't have a PC at all.
Yeah.
Now I do. So
yeah,
it's a little bit better.
Right.
Just a little bit.
So after visibility, the next thing I noticed is the weapon count. It isn't much of an issue now that the game is like finished and they're not going to balance it anymore. It's just that some of the guns that were nerfed have been nerfed into like pointless redundancy, so that they're useless, so that they're not in the rotation of ecosystem, because they just couldn't balance it because there were just too many guns. So if you get rid of those guns, you end up with the right number of guns you're supposed to have in a game. So yeah, them adding more and more guns when they failed to balance the guns that initially dropped was a problem when that game was out. But now, it's just like, it has its balance. It is what it is. It's not going to change, but there's so many guns that are just nerfed into...
Just fell off the map. And I hate that system as well, because again, I don't want an OP meta to where, everybody's using the MP5, for instance, the whole game. Everybody's just using the MP5. I want to see snipers, shotgunners, submachine gunners, assault rifles. I want to see a plethora of different weapons when I play.
Well, that also gets into matchmaking meta.
Multiplayer.
That also gets into matchmaking, where they were pairing metas with metas.
Right, and when Modern Warfare came out, that M4 was completely, utterly ridiculous. and it was just, and everybody was using it, and ain't nothing wrong with that. But when you have a problem, when you have people that make videos on these guns that say, hey, get a nuke with this gun, use this attachment to get 60,000 kills in a match. That's what becomes a problem, But, but that's
J God's next video.
But that's just the way it is, and that's their job, is to put out the content to tell the people like, hey, this is what's hot right now. This is what's going on. This is the gun that everybody's using. And and like I said, that's a problem in itself, but it's vice versa as well. It's not like one-sided where you're not supposed to tell nobody like, oh, don't use that magazine or that suppressor. No, it's just when you have a high person with a high sub count that have crazy watch retention, people are going to follow you and do what you do. So when you drop that overpowered class or gun, that puts pressure on the studio to fix that gun. So when they fix that gun, it's usually not fixed. Like, they can't fix it at all.
Right.
And they usually, what you said at the beginning, is just, it's completely taken out of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
If they can find a way to fix that to where it makes sense and everybody can still use it, but it's not as good, but it's not as bad. If there's a middle ground, I think that's the problem.
I'm trying to remember the first weapon I noticed they tried to nerf into obscurity before, but they actually brought it back. It was the Odin. They tried to nerf it into obscurity when people found out how to make decent classes with it, because it could just rock your world. And some of my best gameplay was with the Odin, especially in Warzone. And they were like, so they nerfed into obscurity. It wasn't doing the same damage. It was bouncing way too much. The attachments weren't doing anything. And then people were like, all right, cool to nerf it, but now it's like completely useless. And because people were kind of noticing, they're like, all right, we'll kind of fix it. But then, look at all the DLC guns they nerfed into obscurity that people just don't remember. Like, no one gives a damn about. You know what I mean? Like, at that point, it shouldn't be in the game. I stand by what I said before and a lot of previous videos, which is like, start the game off with like the lowest number of weapons you feel comfortable with, and then add like one DLC weapon a month, and then you'll end up with like a good ecosystem of original guns and DLC guns, and you'll give yourself enough pacing to balance them as time goes on.
And another reason I understand the one one DLC gun a month. I get that, and I also get that when you when you play the game and you have such limited gun counts, it gets boring. Like
Yeah.
if I just have an M4, an ACR, and an M16 just to use in the first month, I'm gonna be tired as hell of the game because I'm
Yeah.
gonna end up mastering the game. I'm
Yeah.
gonna know the recoil patterns, and I'm gonna know what attachments I like with the perks. So it's just gonna be too easy, and I'm gonna be bored.
Right.
The thing is, they gotta add guns people like and know, but also have an offset to them. You
Right.
know, where you have to master that gun, but you can't master the gun in 10 games. Like in less
Mhm.
than five to 10 games, I already know like, okay, this gun's gonna jump because of the grip, or this magazine, or I need to change this, and then it becomes a beam. They
Right.
gotta find a way to counter that where you gotta become really, really
Proficient.
mastered
Yeah.
of that weapon. And that doesn't mean add recoil. Like,
No.
come on.
It doesn't mean just like start adding random backwards shit to the gun. Like, all right, well, here's
Yeah,
more and
like
more cons until this gun is just
right,
a turd.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like add stuff that makes sense. Don't try to kill it to where it's like, all right, that gun's done. We just bring in another type of that weapon and people will like
Can't
it.
use it
No.
anymore.
Yeah, like nah, man. Keep it and try to nerf it, not nerf it, but try to make it balanced.
Right.
That's all.
Chucky.
So early on, I ended up. It was very interesting because like when we finally got Cold War, it took me a long time to like finally accept it because it was like it just took a while because it was so different from Modern Warfare, and
Hmm.
I was like it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel how I like it. And then after a while, I don't remember how long it took me, but I finally was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and play Modern Warfare because why the fuck not? And so I went ahead and I came back, and I noticed immediately that like they had a lot of the guns that were really good. They had nerfed tremendously
Yep.
because the first game that I got back in, I was like, all right, I know what I'm doing. Just pick up my M4A1. Let's fucking do this. And then 5 seconds later, I'm shooting someone who's 20 meters away from me, and it's taking 5 bullets to kill them. And I'm like,
Elo.
what did they do to you? What did they
Yeah.
do to
Elo.
you?
What have they done to my boy?
And they just completely slaughtered it. And then like when I came back and finally like played it this past week, like I for so one, I don't know how this fucking happened, but instead of having just my Modern Warfare classes, my Warzone classes got ported over to Modern Warfare.
Oh, damn.
So I was like, oh, all right, we're just running this, I guess. And so I had to run some of them, and I was able to make some modifications to them as well too, like in between games. But like it it was amazing to me, like how slow, how clunky, and then like even after modifying them, because I took the M4A1, and I was like, all right, let me remove everything. I'm just gonna maximize like mobility as much as possible, and I
Oof.
did that, and the recoil was just absurd.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was it was insane.
And that's not a good look, like when you just straight up give up on balancing your guns because you know that you can't. So you're like, I'm just going to make this thing a complete and utter potato, and hopefully people forget about it entirely. It's like, you don't want that shouldn't be your goal, to make people forget about
Or
your shit in your game.
or completely kill the movement. Like kill
Okay.
how you move with the
Hold
gun,
on.
how
We're
fast.
getting there. We're getting
Oh,
there. So, all right. So, before we get there, T-Dog, anything you want to say?
I kind of forgot what the topic was about, to be honest with you. I think we got a little off
All right,
topic.
yeah. So the topic was the weapon count in Modern Warfare, and them being like, we can't balance all of them, so let's just nerf a lot of them into not being usable at all.
So I think that the weapon count at the end of this, coming back and playing this again this past week, I enjoyed seeing all these different guns. What I do remember when I first started playing this when it came out, everybody just used like the M4A1 because it was so overpowered when
No.
you had all the chat.
No.
No way.
Well, you had all the things on it. God, I can't even think what the word is. Attachments. There you go. But no, I think they did good with what's up right now. What you can do with them.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, the fact that
So
like
all-
the game isn't going to be updated anymore and it just is what it
Mm-hmm.
is, like that aspect is, you know, you can't change it. It's not going to change. So whatever you adjust to now is going to be what you remain adjusted to forever for that game, which is fine as long as I can create a class now and then 2 years from now go back to that class and it still does what it did, you know.
Exactly. Like
But it just
for me-
wasn't doing that when the game was live, you know.
for me, I have one class I use if I'm playing the fun times of Warzone. And usually if I come back to this game and play some TDM or like Search and Destroy, I just use that one class, or like I have like two classes. I don't really change it up just because exactly it's done, it's not live no more.
Right.
So I just kind of play it as I did, which now is my normal.
All right, so getting into, yeah, fucking.
So,
He was trying to skip categories, because that's on the list, Gunner. So we'll go into these next two. So doors, we all gave a shot. Me and Gunner were like, when we were in LA, we were like, this could be cool. This could be useful for maybe some cool gameplay. Maybe something interesting or funny could happen. I was thinking like C4 type, funny moments. But no, like when you go and play Cold War versus Modern Warfare, the difference in the mobility and like routing on maps with outdoors and with a mini map, it's like you can't even compare the two. In my opinion, I think getting rid of doors is what they need. They're not going to, but it's what they need in Modern Warfare. But also, on top of that, other things slowing down movement besides doors. Going back and playing Modern Warfare 2019, the movement felt sluggish. I know a part of that was the field of view was locked at 65. That's just, you can't change the field of view on a console. I'm not even sure if you can change field of view on PC for Modern Warfare 2019.
You can.
Oh, you can? Okay. Well, I was on console, so I knew, like, hey, take it easy, don't be too harsh. A lot of that is probably from the field of view. But even without field of view, I was looking at, like, changing weapons, pulling out equipment, throwing equipment. Like, you used to be able to throw C4, and now in Modern Warfare 2019, because people were good with C4, they nerfed the damage so that if you have, like, flak jacket on, you can get hit with 2 C4s and survive. And then they nerfed the throwing to where you can aim as high as you want, and your person's like makes a bunch of noise and throws a C4, and it like drops at your shoelaces.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
yeah. So nerfing the movement to even the playing field was still awful and sluggish. It was not fun.
Yep. Doors make it worse. Doors were a safe haven for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Claymores was everybody's friend.
Yeah.
You hide a claymore behind that door, you get a bunch of kills.
Yep.
A match. You don't have to do. You don't have to
Shoot
shoot your
house?
gun.
Up in the
Yeah.
office there. Oh man,
Yeah.
Claymore Central,
Yep.
bro.
Or a 725 behind the desk, claymore at the door. You're done. You can't do nothing.
Yeah.
So
Um,
that was just bad gameplay design.
yeah.
If you ask me, man.
Well, then
like,
that brings me to like counters, which is bullet penetration. Like it was really hard sometimes to shoot through a wall and hit a claymore, even if you had on that perk that lets you see equipment through walls.
Yep.
And then Vanguard, everything's made out of paper, but in Modern Warfare, sometimes windows were like bulletproof for some reason. But if you were lined up, like you had two people in front of you and you were spraying them with your assault rifle, you were not going to get bullet penetration. It was only going to hit them with one bullet at a time. And people felt that and were like, is that really what's going on? And then it was later confirmed, especially after they did the tick count investigation, showing like 12 tick lobbies. And they were like, yeah, part of it is it just like it can't handle that amount of information, so bullet penetration between enemies just isn't there, which was bad in itself, because it's just like, if you're talented or skilled enough to handle a double team, to line up the people so that you can spray them both at the same time, that skill isn't going to matter, because you're only going to be able to take out one, and then the other one's going to kill you while you're reloading. That was messed up. You know, that was bad. That slowed it down. And then when I remember going to Black Ops Cold War, and I got like a triple kill with a ton of bullet penetration. I was just spraying through a line of people, and I got all of them on one clip. And I was like, oh, I forgot what that felt like. That felt
I
good.
agree.
Yeah.
Or when you clip a sniper shot and you hit 2 with 1, but in MW you can't do that. It won't kill that second person.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
And I always found that really annoying, because like I get the sick lineup and it's like, I had that, why didn't it count? And then you go to like Cold War and it's just every time, and you're just like, oh, that feels so good.
So much better. Yeah.
There was a lot of issues with the movement. Like, one of the issues, and this goes back to like the routing, I mean, it all ties in together, but like the doors fucked up a lot of things, especially like when you were trying to flank people, because if you flanking in Cold War versus Modern Warfare was extremely different, because in Modern Warfare you have to consider the doors and if there's any possible windows along the way that you can just pop right into. Otherwise, you're gonna just run straight through that door and there's gonna be a loud clank, and that just gives the people
Alerted everybody.
Yeah, everybody on the other side of the map is gonna fucking hear you, and you're gonna go, oh well, okay, I guess that didn't work, and then they're just gonna be waiting and ready for you in that second. It fucked up a lot of things.
Yeah,
Especially on remastered maps.
Absolutely.
yeah. Like we were actually
And,
talking about remaster maps, like last night. We were just like, I mean, it didn't mess up the flow too much of the remastered maps, that bad, except for maybe broadcast. But backlot, I mean, that center building, even if you weren't in it and you were just around it, you go in through one of the doors, everybody's going to know you're coming in, and it just changes the whole route.
I'm saying, man, it's just the little things that disrupt flow, man.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to say they did it on purpose. But like I said, I feel like they sat there and was like, people that's been playing this game for a long time is already going to know like the routes to go on backlot, crash, broadcast, and they wanted to disrupt that. So a thing about Modern Warfare that I felt throughout the year, I couldn't get what I wanted, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will feel the same way, where I would know like, hey, okay, I'm on backlot, I know these routes, because I would say that sometimes in the party when we used to play. I'd be like, yo, hey, backlot comes out, I'm dropping nukes all the time.
I remember dominating. I remember dominating on Crash when they brought that back. And I was like, dude, here comes Crash. And then we were dominating because like a lot of the new kids just like did not know.
Yeah. But eventually they adapted, and it was tough to play. And I'm not saying like adapting is bad, but
it's how it should be though. It shouldn't be like, let's punish the people who are familiar. It's like, let's bring it back for the people who are familiar, and then the new kids can adapt.
Yeah, that's how it should. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So sometimes I did feel that, I couldn't get my way.
Right.
That sounds selfish as hell, but but in Modern Warfare, it felt that way. I couldn't do what I wanted.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, I don't even want to play this because I'm not getting my way.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a way that you earned, though. Like, you are familiar with that map because you've played it enough, and they're like, yeah, we want to bring this map back for you guys because we know you like it, and that'll bring you back to keep playing our game that we want you to spend time and money on, but we're going to mess it up so that you don't get to enjoy it the same way. That
6v6 was killed in Modern Warfare.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong for that. I don't think you're wrong for
that. And
it
completely just spit through out the window.
So
because...
Oh, go ahead.
But,
no, you're good.
I'm good. I'm done because that's gonna lead.
It's gonna lead.
It's gonna lead to something else.
So this one was very weird, and I remember making a video on it with Drifter. I made a video. He made a video. We were talking about the tick count back and forth, and then me and him talked about. Let's see. He shared one of my videos talking about peaking. So the issue with peaking in Modern Warfare 2019 was like if you walked by a window and you were peeking out the window, right? Instead of moving side to side, like you're aiming forward and you're moving side to side, visually, when you're walking across that window, you're walking backwards across it, so your back ends up being visually exposed in the window before your face is. So it provides a sight line for the enemy who's camping at their window before you even peek your face out to see them, and they start shooting well before you do. And so this is something that isn't really in any other Call of Duty, but in Modern Warfare 2019, there were multiple times where I would like go to peek the window, people would shoot before me, and I'd go and watch the gameplay, and instead of walking sideways like I am with my controller, my character is walking backwards, looking to the side, with his head kind of leaned forward over his gun. So yeah, it exposes my whole body before my head can see anything. That was cheeky. That was messed up, because that is just rewarding campers. That's all that is there to design to do, is to reward the person camping at the window.
Yeah.
It's essentially a modern form of head glitching, really.
Yeah.
But just camping out in the open, though. You're just camping out in the open, waiting for them to try to peek, and it's like, oh, I see their ass and their back before their head shows, so they're dead. You know.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was
Modern Warfare was the way for the camper.
Yeah.
That game was designed for them. You know, that's just what it is. I don't care how people feel. That's how I think.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. It wasn't made for my place. I'll tell you that now.
One of the other note is just like, again, like slowing down movement and stuff with like switching weapons and ADSing, because it's like, oh, you have the ability to flex and like switch weapons and maneuver really quickly. We're going to slow those down to a limit so that you can't go any faster than this limit, so that if you do have the ability better than somebody else, you're not going to be able to actually perform that fast compared to them. That was messed up.
That's what Mark of J had a problem with. Yeah. That was the same problem. He was saying, like, why are you punishing me for movement than, you know, for the camper to kill me?
Right.
That's killing my play style.
Right.
Again. Like,
yeah.
I can't help that I run with my head cut off, you know? But it gets me a lot of kills. It keeps me wanting to play.
And then every update was incrementally more and more, whether it was for like individual attachments on the gun to incrementally slow this down more and more. Or,
it was always
it
was always the penalization.
And that was the whole point
of movement.
That was the whole point of them creating this like very complex movement system with so many different facets and knobs and nodules to incrementally turn up or turn down. For like, you have run out rate. Instead of just being able to run, it's run out rate, meaning like there's a delay for the moment you try to run and you're actually running. Like stuff like that was just that it's just over convoluted. They had some of that in Black Ops Cold War, but it was nowhere near as bad as Modern Warfare 2019.
And they got to remember too, it's still a video game.
Yeah,
that's the key, man. You know, we're not training to go to war. Well, this is still
they're trying to copy reality. They're trying to copy their quote competition instead of being the trendsetter. But if your competition isn't selling as many copies as you, why are you trying to copy them?
Because
if you want to sell less copies, then go for it. You know.
I guess they feel. I think another thing Activision does is that they feel that if their competitor is doing something new, they could do it better. That's where that comes from.
Yeah, but that ain't fucking true. I'm sorry.
I know, but that's probably how they feel. You know, like, oh, they got this new mode. All right, let me see if it works in Call of Duty, and maybe we can add a little salt to it and pepper, and maybe it'll be better.
Yeah,
that's just how that feels.
And then they're surprised when leaving Call of Duty leaves behind Call of Duty fans.
Yeah, man. You got a bunch of blueprints. You better use them. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's true. So, yeah, we already talked about spawns. There were hackers when I played on Modern Warfare 2019. I guess Ricochet either just isn't working or it's not implemented on Modern Warfare 2019. But
Is that?
yeah, like people were just like snapping through walls from Spawn on Shoot House, and I was like, "Yo, really?" It was. I mean, it was 1 out of 5 matches. I would see that, which was surprising because Ricochet is apparently like doing all types of good stuff elsewhere. But anyways,
Is that a joke?
Warzone.
not yeah. That was a thinly veiled joke. I'm just talking about the reports, the official reports against
I went over
hacking.
my head. On.
So I love T-Dog. Is that a fucking joke?
Whoa! Wow. I don't know if they're doing good, but they're trying.
So now that we've talked about all the issues, I want to talk about the good things that I noticed that I very much appreciated. Being able to edit classes mid-game was new in Modern Warfare 2019.
Great.
That was dope.
Great.
You know, one
awesome.
thing they missed though with
What?
that is not so much in game, but talking about the create a class is the previous games you could go to like a little
Firing range.
firing range in your create a class to test this gun out. I thought that is so smart. They took that away, and I kind of was disappointed.
So we're gonna talk
out.
about we're gonna talk more about that in like the next topic, like the next major topic. But yes, like they didn't have the firing range, which everybody was like, "You added all this new cool stuff. Why didn't you bring back like recent cool stuff?" Yeah, that was disappointing. But we got good news talking about that in the next topic. The next good thing was Gunsmith. Like editing all the attachments. It was ambitious. Yeah, they struggled to balance it, but it was still a cool new idea. The way they had it, like, you know, the way the menu looked. The menu didn't look counterintuitive. It looked very intuitive. And the only issue was just the balancing, but the core idea itself was cool. And
it was smart.
Yeah.
It was very smart for them to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a new innovation for like the FPS scene.
Yeah.
You know, you got your gun bench, you can see your perks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can see attachments on your guns and stuff. Besides the penalization of putting on attachments.
Oh, unrelated but kind of related is going back to the creative class aesthetic of the classic Call of Duties. That was very intuitive. Very intuitive choice. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the little things that count.
Yeah.
You know, but the Gunsmith was a great addition to Call of Duty. It needed something like that.
For sure.
But you know, having all these attachments that can't be balanced is going to hurt the game. But I'm pretty sure they'll fix that. Hopefully, I'm hoping. But as I said, I think Gunsmith it should be here to stay. It should not be gone anywhere. That should be a staple. You know, it shouldn't just disappear and we go back to Call of Duty 4's create a class.
I think they should experiment with limiting it a little bit in the future for balance sake. I think they should experiment with that and see how that does. But it should definitely be here to stay 100%.
Yeah, it was a good idea by Infinity Ward to do something like that.
I did appreciate the fact that like you could literally make your own like gun, set it up with all your personal attachments, and then have it saved and be
there
like,
you go.
I'm gonna keep this for later.
Yeah.
There you go.
Change. It's like save your own variants and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was nice.
That was good.
I appreciate that.
The animations obviously are top notch because Griggs is a fucking demigod.
Psycho.
Yeah. So again, we kind of talked about this before. The match design was great, though after going back and play, I still stand by my previous statement that the classic map design has to be paired with the classic minimap in order for it to feel like classic Call of Duty. Otherwise, you're just not going to get that classic fun feeling that they were going for, because part of that experience was maneuvering through classic Call of Duty maps, was maneuvering with the guide of a classic minimap. But
does that include like 3-lane map design?
Yeah, like I think that if we had a mini map, we would have in Modern Warfare 2019, it would have the maneuvering through the maps would have felt closer than we realize to what we wanted or were expecting. Like I think Jeffrey Smith, because Jeffrey Smith is the guy who made Nuketown. He made like all the best maps in the first Modern Warfare, some of the most iconic maps in Modern Warfare 2, and he came back to be the lead like map designer or whatever for Infinity Ward for Modern Warfare 2019, but because they didn't pair his designs with the classic minimap, it became Campsville. And so
Yeah.
people shit all over his maps. And
Right.
it's like, man,
And they're
that
mad
wasn't
at him because of that.
right.
And that's
And
not
I'm
right.
like, that's not fair. Like, you guys don't understand, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yo,
y-
he made some great maps.
yeah,
Like,
and then it's like, oh, well, we don't like these because the experience isn't the same. It's like, well, it's not necessarily the maps. Like, you know, I've done some private matches where I put on a traditional mini map in Modern Warfare 2019, where we had like a party of like 5, and it flowed with the mini map. You know?
that's what I said.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I said. Like, how are you gonna take out a core function
right.
like the map, like the radar? Be like, yeah, we're just gonna throw it out there. It's new. Ah, man, you can't force that stuff, bro.
No,
Especially if it's a core staple. You know, like we've been playing since COD 4, man.
oh,
That radar is
and the optics, I think, were good. Like that plethora of optics, they all looked good and
I
Oh
functioned
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. Any final words on this before I give the final statement closing this up?
I feel like
Um,
Modern Warfare 2019 should have been better. I feel like they could have did a lot more.
All right.
But you know, it's limitations.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping Modern Warfare 2 is better.
Yep. Chucky.
I feel like they just honestly like before. I don't know if I'd say before launch, but I think definitely before like beta and alpha, they need to have like a more thorough like testing process to see like what does work and what doesn't work. So that way like when it comes time to like for them to actually market the game and to know like what's actually going to be in it and what's just going to be a matter of balancing, like they need to have more thorough checks and balances for those, because I feel like a lot of these issues, if they had spent more time on testing and getting it right instead of, because when they found out the new way to maximize the graphics, I think they got too caught up with that and then
Mm.
just completely like fell off the
That's-
cliff with the multiplayer and the other little features that were going on with it, because there were good features that they had in it, but like again, they kind of like fell off. And if they had more I feel like if they had more checks and balances to actually like sit down and see and go, okay, this is actually working, this isn't actually working, then the game would have performed a lot better than it did.
Right.
I think that, yeah, like graphics wise, they need to stop needing to make it so realistic. Like, we don't want realistic. We do, but we don't, right?
Right.
Like, where I'd rather have good gameplay and good fun times and use a bit of my imagination than having a graphically amazing game that just doesn't play very well. Or like you need the best graphics card, PS5 or whatever the latest console is to even stand a chance, you know?
Right.
Well, so I mean, there's also so this issue did kind of exist with Cold War, because when I was lucky enough to get a PlayStation 5, going from PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 and seeing the gameplay and the latency difference that existed between just like people playing on previous gen and people who are playing on current gen and PC, it was astounding.
Yeah.
And if I had known like there was that much of a difference, then I probably wouldn't even bothered playing the multiplayer at all.
Right. Yeah, no, that is definitely like a real thing where they were prioritizing the updates for the next gen console, which obviously they're going to do that. But in doing so, there was latency issues with previous gen that were more common than on the next gen consoles, but also some of the updates, because they're prioritized, they weren't filtering out all the issues and slowdown it was causing for the game in general on the previous gen. Like, I go to my menu, guys, and I'm looking through people's heads. I can see their eyeballs and their teeth and shit. Like, they're not even there. Their guns are just floating, walking in midair. Like, that's what the menus look like on previous gen. So that in itself is definitely an issue that we should have gone over. But I'm glad you actually brought that up for the tail end. If everybody's ready, I'm going to give my final in conclusion statement.
I forgot one last thing.
Oh, okay.
I truly appreciate them bringing gunfight into
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I can
Okay.
talk about that.
Okay, here we go.
Because
So keep
go
going.
ahead.
Yeah, you go first. You go first. You brought it up.
Because early on, like, I really wanted to love Modern Warfare, and it, like, the gameplay, like, just getting used to all the big changes that they were making that they would eventually throw away. Um, um, it took a lot of my interest out of, like, it made it a lot more frustrating than it should have been. And being able to go and play gunfight and go, okay, I'm essentially on a balanced fight where me and the other guys have the same guns, we have the same weapons, we have the same equipment and attacks, so everything's fine. It's just down to you and how you play. Like, that really helped. Like, it helped me adjust to how Modern Warfare was supposed to play, so I could get a good read and know what to do. And it also just it managed to keep my interest in the game long enough to where once they finally did make those changes to multiplayer and I switched back to playing multiplayer on, like, just team deathmatch, domination, kill confirmed on the regular, then I was good. I was set. I could do it all and I was fine.
Right. Yeah, no.
I
Oh, go ahead, G-Dog. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I agree, full on with you there. I think that gunfight was my most played mode when the game was out because I could jump in and not feel like, oh, I'm so low level, I don't have any attachments, or I never grinded this gun.
Right.
But we're on the exact same playing field, and it was always random. It was never, oh, this is the same as last time, or you couldn't like grind grind it to get good with the certain classes to be good at the mode because it was always random. And sometimes the attachments on those guns were absolute dog crap and the gun was absolutely garbage. But it was fun because you still had to be better than the other person.
It was like
and
a
they had the
spread out
exact
gun game.
yeah. And then how many times can I say and then they threw in tournaments, gunfight tournaments, and oh, did I grind those tournaments because one, it's free blueprints. Not that I ever used blueprints, but it was a free chance to get some good, and I could say I was number one in this bracket. Like,
Right.
yes, give me some of that gunfight.
Well,
I love it.
I think that me and Gunnar actually had more fun playing the gunfight mode in LA than the bigger map modes. Even with some of the kill streaks I got in the bigger map modes, it was just like, well, we had Paladin. Is that what it was? The giant map we played in LA, the castle palace map or whatever.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I mean, it was cool, but I knew like this map was not going to be that popular after playing it. But like playing gunfight was, I mean, I had the most fun playing that in LA, and I was like, this is a cool new addition. I think that's what made me like the most optimistic actually about the rest of the game. And you know, I was eventually let down, but that's not important. That game mode gave me optimism because it was cool. I can't believe I forgot to write that shit down, but yeah.
My
you're right.
I guess biggest pet peeve coming from being a party player, playing like gunfight and gun game is when it comes to the gun game mode. I do enjoy it. I cannot say I can't. But the one thing that's kind of frustrating is that they didn't keep the classic gun game format. They
Yeah.
changed it. Every game you get different guns and different attachments, which is fine if they stuck with that ladder format where you start at pistols, go to shotguns, SMGs, assault rifles, snipers, rocket launchers, whatever,
Right.
continue on. But they just did random.
Ooh,
It's just okay.
one thing I will say on that, the only game that I feel that broke the Black Ops 1 format and it worked was Modern Warfare Remastered, because you went through every single weapon,
Yes.
starting from you went from the bottom of the classes all the way up to the top of the classes, and you started over and over and over until you got to the very last one, and then you got to the knife. That was the only time where I was like, yo, this worked. This felt perfect, you know.
And it's not so much that the guns change every round that I don't like. You can keep the attachments changing, but if they put that ladder system in,
Right.
again, where it was you start at the pistols and you end at a pistol or a knife or a throwing knife or the ballista knife, whatever it is, it would feel like gun game. But like this last week, I played a lot of gun games. I do enjoy it, but it's the first one to 18 kills, and it's just what's gonna be the random ass guns you're gonna get this game.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I will say I have mixed feelings on like having everybody start on just like random guns versus on the
Yeah,
pistols.
I
Where
agree.
like I do enjoy, like, I don't mind it at all. I don't mind it being randomized. But the thing is that like if you lose pace for like the first like minute of gun game and it's the traditional style and you're stuck on those pistols and everyone's already up to SMGs and ARs, it's a struggle to get back into that game. And chances are you're probably not gonna place because like it can just be absolutely rough. Because then on top of that, you're dealing with people who like they get that they get the LMG or they get the sniper rifle and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna like post up in the spot right here
Oh yeah.
and like, I know this spot has heavy traffic, so I'm just gonna wait for someone to come this way and boom. And it just fucks up a lot of things.
Yeah, and then you come around the corner with a shotgun that's suppressed, and you're like, "Mommy."
Yeah, honestly.
My my last little things. I'm a multiplayer guy. I don't really play, party games. I never really sat down and played like those type of party modes. I'm just not interested,
Mhm.
But by the sound of it, it sounds fun as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it sounds like something new and different, and people really enjoy it. Besides the regular domination, kill confirm, team deathmatch.
Right.
We're gonna
Um, I personally just want the core multiplayer to be a fun experience.
Overall.
That's
Yeah.
that's just overall. Besides the party game modes, because they seem fun. Everybody that I know that talks about them just have so much damn fun in them, and I need to start playing them. But multiplayer to me just needs to be fun and not an excruciating experience to where you're like, I don't want to play this no more. I'm done.
Yeah.
And multiplayer, I know we have like ranked league and ranked play or whatever stuff like that. I just feel like multiplayer needs more of an initiative to play the multiplayer. We need more grinding instead of just camos every year and completing
Oh
challenges.
yeah, unlocking things based on pure
Unlocking
time
things.
that was bad.
We
I don't like
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think multiplayer needs an initiative again. Like it
Yeah.
needs another kickstart because every year it's the same. I feel like the plan is to kill multiplayer and move everybody to Warzone. That's how I feel. But I could be completely wrong. But Warzone was the new addition, and a lot of people really don't play the multiplayer unless they're leveling up guns, stuff like that, to get back into Warzone.
Right.
But
I agree.
but I just want the core experience of the multiplayer back. I hate skill-based matchmaking. I know that's a touchy subject, but personally, it doesn't matter to me. It's not like I do bad, with skill-based matchmaking. I still do, about the same.
It can just take
But
away
it's just,
variety.
yeah, it just takes away variety and having fun because with these last couple of Call of Duties, I'm not using snipers. I'm not using shotguns like I used to in back in the day. I'm not using the stuff that I could still get off with. Now it just seems like I'm limited to one category. If the lobby is using submachine gun, I'm using it because
Right.
I gotta compete. That's not right.
Right.
I feel the variety aspect of the multiplayer with skill based matchmaking in it kills it. And I feel like that's the poison to get everybody in Warzone. Like, man, if it's that, then just say it. Like if Warzone is just everything to everybody, then just say that. But them
Well,
taking away,
well, it ain't now. I mean, you look at the charts of all the people who left it. They lost 50 million people in a year. So.
yeah. So, but that's really that's really about it. I just feel like Modern Warfare, if Modern Warfare was going to be the reboot, Call of Duty 4, I felt like it missed the mark by that. I felt like it was kind of crazy that Modern Warfare 19 wasn't like the successor of COD 4.
Right.
I'm just old, man.
Hey, yo,
When it comes to Call of Duty,
So-
bro. Like,
so-
man, I live
so-
in the past with COD, bro.
So here's the closing statement. All right. So in conclusion, it was a game that constantly incrementally added more and more patch notes that limited your maneuverability in order to even the playing field and to avoid rewarding skill progression and proficiency as much as possible. It was a game that forbid your bullet penetration from damaging 2 players at once in order to even the playing field and avoid rewarding skill progression and proficiency as much as possible. It was a game that would spawn people right behind you when you were on a kill streak in order to even the playing field and to avoid rewarding skill progression and proficiency as much as possible. It was a game that got rid of the minimap because new players wouldn't be as proficient at utilizing it as the players who had more practice and experience, all to even the playing field and avoid rewarding skill progression and proficiency as much as possible. It was a game that had the most strict skill-based matchmaking in the franchise's history in order to even the playing field and avoid rewarding skill progression and proficiency as much as possible. But the graphics were kick-ass.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
sums it
perfect.
up.
And one thing, in the next game, do not kill Captain Price. Modern Warfare 19
Oh, don't do
had
it.
the best. Yo, the campaign in Modern Warfare was really good. You better
Yeah,
not kill Price in
don't
Modern
do
Warfare
it.
2. I'll tell you that now.
All right.
Yep,
So,
I'll tell
all
you
right.
that
So
now.
that's going to be the end of the episode on that one.